Hello, this is Sri Banerjee, and in this session I'll be going over the characteristics by person, place, and time. So if you looked in one of your assignments, you'll actually have to be as part of your situation analysis, and as part of this week's assignment, you'll actually have to provide depiction of your disease condition that you've chosen and be able to provide comparisons in terms of person, place, and time. Now, at first glance, this may seem a little vague and hard to understand, but I'll go into more detail and clarify what this exactly means. So, in terms of characteristics of individuals, of persons, some of the key elements that are so significant and critical is looking at age. Age we went over in terms of indirect mortality, indirect standardization of mortality rates, and when we were also going over some other mortality rates, we were looking at HIV death rates in a certain age group. So mortality rates are different for different age groups. For instance, another example is testicular cancer, which is more common among males that are between the ages of 20 and 30. Not only age is a factor, but gender, sex is actually many times a factor. Marital status has been shown to be a factor. Race and ethnicity are also traditional aspects that have been shown to affect the prevalence of certain conditions. And nativity and migration, religion, and socioeconomic status are all examples of person variance by person. So this chart over here, I guess it's more of a graph, is somewhat of a busy graph, which is from the Fries and Sellers book, but it's in chapter 4, and it really brings home how death rate is different by age groups. So, causes of death are different by age groups. So as you can see at the top, from between ages 1 to 14 and 15 to 24, there's a lot of unintentional injuries that cause death. So if you think about it, certain things like falls, things like even unintentional injuries like burns, which is more of a hazard in low and middle income countries, but still seen in many parts of the world. These are the most common types, and you can probably guess why in between the ages of 15 and 24 this might be higher, is because of teenagers trying their environment out and doing extreme sports and not taking precautions a lot of times causes these to be higher. Anyway, so going to 25 to 44, the unintentional injury rates actually fall slightly, but then when you get into the ages of 45 to 64, cancer and heart disease start to take over. So you can see very clearly how age can be can play a very significant role. So characteristics of place, where you live, there's geographic variations in certain disease rates. So things like stroke is actually, there's a higher preponderance of stroke in certain regions of the United States. When I was studying medicine in the South, we had the medical school I attended had one of the first telestroke programs, some telemetry stroke programs, because we were actually located in what was considered in the southeast, the stroke belt. And for whatever reason, it's actually there's a higher preponderance there than other parts of the country. So there's actually differences between urban and rural areas. There's higher preponderances of certain diseases. In rural areas, due to lack of access, due to different types of environments. Urban areas, there's more preponderance of asthma due to pollution and other environmental factors. So these are definitely aspects that you should be looking at when you're looking at your own the condition that you have chosen. What is it that makes your condition different as far as place? So characteristics of time is also something that is very significant. Certain diseases have cyclic fluctuations. Of course, as you know, influenza is more in the winter time. There's a higher preponderance of this. Lyme disease and Rocky Mountain spotted fever is more in hotter climate, hotter temperatures. So during the spring and summer is the highest season of tick-borne, vector-borne diseases. So there's all sorts of different patterns of time that we can actually study in terms of in terms of your disease. So again, your disease condition, if there is fluctuations that take place that are dependent on time, then I would expect for you to point these patterns out. Just to go a little bit into more detail, there's cyclic fluctuations in heart disease as well. Mortality is higher in wintertime than summertime. There's actually a higher rate of depression in the wintertime than summertime. A lot of times you might have heard of seasonal affective disorder, which actually fluctuates with the seasons. There's so many. I've already talked about influenza, but even unintentional injuries, there's cyclic fluctuations. So this is another graph that shows how there's cyclic fluctuations of rotavirus, and as you can see, during different different years, there's actually different rates of rotavirus, and different. There's actually peak activity. There's off activity at certain time periods. So again, if you're definitely doing a condition which has fluctuation, or even some sort of time pattern that it follows, then I would expect for you to note that. Now, there's also certain things called secular time trends, where certain diseases, due to antigenic shift, certain viruses actually have a higher virulence to the host. So in terms of influenza A, you can see this higher virulence every 2 to 3 years, and also less immunity can cause that. Another example is rotavirus. So again, if you have anything that has a time fluctuation like this, then you want to definitely note this. So this sums up the person, place, time variations. If you have anything like this, please do note this. So this sums up everything for this session. Thank you for listening.